Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Path of Exile 2. In case you guys missed out on yesterday's live stream, GGG just announced a massive amount of content that they're going to be adding to the game on the 29th of May. And that is something that I'm particularly excited for due to the fact that during previous League releases, I was actually covering other game updates and other titles, and I had to split my time between Path of Exile 2 and other stuff that I was working on, and that was increasingly frustrating because Path of Exile 2 is one of those games that you really want to just jump in and not stop playing until you get your fill for the League. And I haven't really been able to do that as much as I'd like. But it seems that with this League releasing on the 29th of May, I should be able to do that because the month of June is looking pretty clear from other releases and updates. I'm going to cross my fingers. Hopefully I didn't forget anything and I didn't miss anything because I really want to dedicate a decent chunk of time to just going through this particular League because it looks like it's going to be right up my alley. Now we're going to be talking a lot about the features that they're adding to the game. I'm not going to go quite in depth as they did in their presentation because they went so in depth that I actually had trouble keeping up with all the stuff that they were talking about because it was very, very technical, and only really the people that put thousands of hours into it will probably understand a lot of the information that is being conveyed. And me, I'm still only sitting at around 400 something hours of Path of Exile 2. And I know the Path of Exile community is going to jump in the comment section and give me the McConaughey speech.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
But yeah. Agreed, and hopefully I'll be able to do that with this particular League. But anyways, let's jump right in. Now, one of the things that I saw asked quite a few times during my live stream yesterday was we had a couple of people asking, is the game worth the $30 to jump in? The answer is yes, absolutely. It's been worth $30 pretty much since it released as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I've already gotten 400 hours out of the game. I've actually put about 100 euros into it, mostly to support the developers because I felt like I was robbing from them, taking into account the amount of content that they've been providing up until this point. And I know that it's been somewhat controversial with the existing audience for Path of Exile and the new audience coming in for Path of Exile 2. There's been a couple of clashes here and there, which is to be expected. But for my money, I think it's absolutely worth it, and I've been absolutely enjoying the game. Now, the second question will likely be, but it's a free-to-play game. Is it pay to win? No. The answer is no. It's not pay to win by any stretch of the imagination. They do sell you bag space, and you will want to buy a couple of bag slots at some point if you dedicate enough time into the game. Because if you're just playing casually, I don't even think that you need additional bag space. But if you're putting in a significant amount of hours, like let's say you're putting in more than 100 hours, you likely want to have additional bag space and the convenience of having like a currency tab and having like a gemstone tab because it's easier to organize all the loot that the game's going to be showering you with. But yeah, those are like the two aspects that I wanted to get out of the way because I've seen those questions asked quite a bit when it comes to Path of Exile 2. But now let's talk about the upcoming League, which is being called the Return of the Ancients. And it's going to bring with it a new League mechanic called the Runes of Alder. So before we talk about the things that were added into the game, let's talk about the things that weren't added into the game, which I'm sure a lot of the, more dedicated PoE player base is going to be curious about. There are no new classes in this particular new League, and that was something that I personally was looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the release of the Gladiator, which is going to be Sword and Board. I'm a big fan of Sword and Board. I really like shields, so I'd like to see a class that is going to do that particular playstyle justice, so I think that would be really fun, but we didn't get a Gladiator this time around, so I'm going to stick with my boy the Mercenary. As a matter of fact, for this particular League, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to play Totem Mercenary, going to be doing some ballista shenanigans or maybe some shockwave totems, or I don't know. I haven't really figured it out yet, but that's the vibe that I'm thinking about going with. Feel free to tell me in the comment sections if you think that is a good or a bad idea, but that's my plan for this particular League. So, no new classes, and also no new weapons. I think a lot of us were expecting to get Sword this time around, and I know if you're somebody that's coming from outside the Path of Exile 2 community and you're like, Sword? You mean to tell me you guys are playing an action RPG that's somewhat medieval themed, with warriors and sorcerers and archers and all the traditional archetypes of a medieval action RPG? And you don't have swords? Hey, we have maces, all right? Maces deal melee damage. We also have spears. I just think that's funny, right? It's really funny. But yeah, no swords this time around. Hopefully next time, which is interesting because the next big update that we're getting for the game is actually not going to be a new league. It is going to be 1.0, which is going to be before the end of the year, according to Jonathan Rogers. Let's hope that that plan pans out. But before the end of the year, supposedly we're going to be getting 1.0. Which is crazy to think because you look at it and you're like, we're still missing so many classes. But they're like, oh, we might not release with all the classes, yada, yada, yada. But they're definitely going to be working on Acts 5 and 6, I would expect. So it'll be interesting keeping tabs on how all of that stuff is going to work out, particularly because Act 4 is really, really cool. But yeah, so there's no new classes, no new weapons. There are, however, 2 new Ascensions that are going to be coming into the game. Ascensions are like the advanced versions of classes. So we have the Spirit Walker for the Huntress, which, it's a type of Huntress that summons spirits, and she's able to also recruit bosses to fight alongside her. First thing that I thought about was like, I want Crowbell. I just want to get Crowbell, get his big-ass bell, beat the crap out of other monsters with it. That sounds like it'd be pretty fun. Surely this will be balanced, considering the bosses that you can get. Like we saw the Manticore in there. It's like, surely this will be balanced. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. The other ascendancy is the Martial Artists, which has like a bell mechanic. Bells drop down, they explode, yada yada. But basically martial artist stuff. I'm not too into martial arts when it comes to PoE 2, but if you guys are looking forward to that, I hope it's as amazing as you guys want. But those are the things that are not there. So no new classes, no new weapons, but 2 new Ascensions. So now let's talk about the new league. The new league is going to be the Runes of Aldur. And this league is going to be, as previous leagues, going to be interacting with the league mechanic from the beginning of the campaign. And at the start, it seems like it's going to be a basic system that's going to allow you to craft currencies. You'll have different recipes that you'll be able to do with this system based on the things that you find as you are exploring the campaign and doing all those shenanigans. And through that, you'll be able to gain additional currency. So stuff to transform your regular items into magic items into rare items, the usual currency stuff that you tend to get, which is pretty cool because as somebody that plays solo self-found, having more reliable ways of farming currency is always welcomed. But even for players that don't play solo self-found, I'm sure that having better access to currency is also going to come in handy. So that is pretty cool. Now, besides being able to craft currency, there's another mechanic that this league brings into play, which is the Runic Ward mechanic. So you'll be able to enchant certain items and you start getting this resource called Runic Ward. And what Runic Ward does is it's a way to prevent death. It is effectively like a second life pool. So whenever your health goes down to 0, triggers your Runic Ward and you have a little bit more health before you actually die, based, I'm assuming, on the amount of Runic Ward that you've acquired throughout your time in the campaign. Now, this is an interesting mechanic. To me, it seems like they're trying to deal with the lethality of some mobs, and the more veteran players, feel free to correct me in the comment section down below if you see fit, but it definitely feels like it's for those situations where players just feel like, oh man, all these mechanics just stacked up at once. I barely even saw the monster and he just one-tapped me. This is kind of like one way of going around that because, you get one tap, but you still survive. Runic Ward triggers, you get the hell out of dodge, and you actually are able to survive. So it'll be interesting to see if that becomes like a more permanent addition to the game or how that mechanic evolves. Now, the thing about Runic Ward to me is, for those of you that aren't aware, like maybe some of you guys are here that are new to Path of Exile 2, there's 3 main defensive systems when it comes to this game. You have energy shield, you have armor, and you have dodging. I guess you can count your health as a defense if we were able to have a little bit more control over it. But, for the purpose of, mitigating damage and avoiding damage and all of that good stuff, these are the 3 main ones: energy shield, dodging, and armor. And in the beginning, armor was really, really bad. It has since been buffed. I don't know what state armor is in right now because, like I said, for the last couple of leagues, I've kind of played it but not been super entrenched in the game. I think it is significantly better at this point. I think dodging is still a little bit problematic, but by far, energy shield has always been the best. Because Energy Shield is, for most intents and purposes, just like additional health on top of your health. So you just get, and not to mention that you can stack it to ridiculous degrees. You'd usually see most of the really, really good Path of Exile players just stacking Energy Shield to the point where you are running around as like, you know, if you're like me, like a more casual newcomer player, just trying to still figure out the game and enjoying yourself. You're like, oh, I got like, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 health. And then in comes somebody at around your same level, like, yeah, I have like 20,000 Energy Shield. And you're just like, oh, okay. That seems balanced. But yeah, that's kind of the point. So what I'm wondering is, how is Runic Ward going to interact with busted Energy Shield stacking? How you know, is it just going to be like even more busted, so Energy Shield just goes even more dominant? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of how they're doing that, because it definitely feels like those systems aren't properly balanced. But then again, I'm a noob when it comes to this stuff, so whatever. Now, other things. You're going to be able to upgrade unique items. You're going to be able to like modify them. So like certain armors and stuff like that. You'll be able to modify some of the stuff on the armor so that it's more viable in endgame and whatnot. But besides that, you're also going to be able to eventually, after you do something in the third act or whatever, you're going to be able to upgrade unique weapons. So you're going to be able to upgrade like low tier uniques and actually make them endgame viable, according to what Jonathan and Mark were saying. It's pretty friggin' good. It's pretty friggin' good that you're going to be able to do that, because sometimes you'd pick up this really cool unique and you're like, oh, and now I'm in Act 2 or Chapter 2, and now this unique is worthless. So it'll be good to bring some of those back, at least from my opinion. I really like that. So that's another thing that you'll be able to do. There's also going to be Kalguran skills, which are going to be powered by the Runic Ward resource, which is an interesting dynamic if you think about it, because like, okay, so I have these new skills that I'm going to be able to get, and they're going to be using the resource that is preventing me from dying. I'm curious to see how these two things are going to interact in game. But yeah, there's going to be special new Kalguran skills that are tied to the new League mechanic that are powered by the Runic Ward resources. There's also 100+ new runes, and some of these runes actually enable you to do a little bit of deterministic crafting. So they showed an example wherein you'll be able to slot a specific rune into like shoes, and then you'll get those shoes to roll specific class affixes and suffixes, which is really, really good, because anything that changes crafting to be more deterministic is always going to be a win in my book. Now, this new League mechanic also seems to be very tied to the Expedition League, which is my favorite one. I've always enjoyed Expedition mechanics more than other mechanics. That's not saying much, because, you know, we all know that Breach was always like the best, at least that's my understanding. But I've always enjoyed Expedition more. Number one, I like explosions. Number two, I like, you know, control over the stuff that I'm doing. So it just felt like Expedition was the better one. And Expedition's getting reworked and getting like this new feature called Ocean Exploration. So you actually get to explore an ocean area. If you go south from where you begin in the Atlas in the endgame, you get to explore the ocean. So instead of getting like those big logbooks that would give you one map and you could go on a grand expedition, those logbooks now reveal like a whole patch of islands that you get to go into and explore, and that seems like it's going to be really fun. And this one is particularly aimed at me, because for those of you that do not know, I'm actually Portuguese. So my ancestors, we used to rule the seas, baby. Back in the day, we'd get on our ships and we ruled everything. We were the best, the greatest explorers. We're the best in the world. Nowadays, not so much. People think we're a province of Spain, but it is what it is, right? So being able to like live the fantasies of my ancestors by doing the Expedition League mechanic and exploring the ocean in Path of Exile 2 is something that's speaking to me on a primal level. So I really want to be able to do that. There's also going to be a mechanic once you start getting really into the nitty gritty of Expedition. You're going to be able to do like this special meteor thing that crashed down, whatever. It's emanating some energy. And you're going to be able to get a special resource from that is going to allow you to forge uniques. So that's going to be very, very cool. That is something that I definitely want to do. But one of the important things, which I think might be the most important thing that they're adding with this particular expansion. Again, I say the most important thing from the level of somebody who is somewhat of a newcomer, like I said, 400 plus hours only, which is not nearly enough when it comes to Path of Exile 2. So veterans are going to be roasting me in the comment section, which is fine. I love you guys anyway. But one of the most important things I feel is the adding of quest lines once you get to the end game. So what's going to be happening is rather than you trying to, rather than you having to go to forums and Reddit and whatever and watching YouTube videos trying to figure out how exactly do I fight the Arbiter of Ash? Oh yeah, there's keys that you find over here. And then if you do a breach and if you get like 100 pieces of the breach on a Tuesday night, then they combine right when the moon is shining and there's an eclipse and they become a special key, which if I go to this specific place in the map and I put something in there, and then a portal opens up, and then you get to fight the pinnacle boss, rather than having all of that obscure stuff that, let's be real, unless you're actually looking up this information, the game doesn't actually tell you how to do any of this. Or maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it does, but if it does, it's hidden somewhere. I don't know. They're actually going to have quest lines which end up with you fighting the pinnacle boss of specific expeditions, which is pretty cool. So most of the expeditions that we've gotten most of the leagues that we've gotten previously are all getting like a massive revamp. They're going to get their own quest line, which is going to guide you along and just kind of like, oh, here's some of the stuff that you do. And then eventually, once you start doing that, you start understanding, oh, this is how I actually get to eventually fighting the pinnacle boss of this specific mechanic, which to me, that is massive. You choose which one you want to interact with. There's a couple more things into the specifics for these. So for starters, the points of interest for these different league mechanics are going to be static in the map. Now, that doesn't mean that the map is still not procedurally generated, different for everyone, but it's more so like if you want to do expeditions, go south. That takes you towards the ocean. And once you get there, you start doing the expedition mechanic. If you want to do the latest one, the Fate of the Vol mechanic, which I forget exactly what the name of it was, the big green abyss, the abyss stuff, I think you have to go east. If you go west, that's going to be the spirit stuff. Is it the spirit stuff? Or is it the... it might be Delirium. West might be Delirium. Then north might be Breach. But also on north, there's like this whole new fortress thing that you get to explore, which has its own mechanics and adds additional points for your Atlas Tree, which, by the way, was completely revamped. So Atlas Tree now, you're going to be able to put points into every single node. And however, there are going to be choices still. So it's not like, oh, so now I just get everything from the Atlas Tree. Yes, but there's going to be a couple of choice nodes that are going to make your Atlas Tree be different from somebody else's depending on the things that you enjoy. I'm sure that somebody's going to min-max that to an extent where it's like, no, actually, you should choose this node here, this node there, and this node here because that is the correct way of doing it. But hopefully the other options are not too bad so that if somebody's like, oh, but I actually want to choose this other node and have that still work. We'll see how that pans out once we get there. But yeah, I really like having more deterministic stuff. So it's like, oh, you want to do this particular league mechanic, go in this direction, you're going to find it. You want to interact with this league mechanic, go in this direction, you're going to find it. Also, all of them have quest lines that will help you along the way so that you can understand what you should be doing rather than just being left to your own devices trying to min-max maps that probably don't really matter all that much. Not that I've ever done that. Moving on. There's also a bunch of new Atlas trees for these specific league mechanics. So they're revamping all of that stuff as well. And yeah, then there's a new thing, which is the Masters of the Atlas. So there's going to be 3 masters. One of them is Doriani. The other one is a character called Hilda. And the other one is a character called Jado. And each of them is going to focus on different aspects of the Atlas. And they're going to give you like passive buffs that you can have to do certain things, and you get additional bonuses for doing certain maps in certain locations, so on and so forth. But basically, they're going to give you different objectives and different playstyles. I mean, personally, when I heard about the Masters of the Atlas, they were going like, okay, so there's this guy, Jado. He wants to go find artifacts and whatnot. Then there's Doriani, who you already know. He wants to go cleanse the corruption, all that. Then there's Hilda, the monster hunter. I was like, oh, Monster Hunter, you say. She wants you to kill monsters and you'll get special crafting materials from these monsters. And I was like, oh, I know which Master of the Atlas I want to follow. I'm going to get really up close and personal with Hilda. She's going to be my waifu of this next patch. It's just that simple. That's the one that I'm going to be doing the most. But yeah, there's the Master of the Atlas mechanic. Then there's a couple of different things that are going to be coming to each of the existing leagues. So Delirium is going to continue to do its thing with the emotions that you already know, that you can then imbue into an amulet that gives you access to different parts of the tree that are far away from your path into the tree and all of that stuff. But it also comes with a new crafting system that you can do there as well. Then with Breach, there's a Genesis tree, which this Genesis 3 also has, like, it's an actual tree in game that has a tree of skills that you can use to put points into that will make it so that whenever you put something into the tree to be crafted, it's going to be more deterministic. I like that. Like I said, anything that gives you more deterministic crafting is a good thing, but it's a whole thing. And then for some reason, Breach also gets like this thing with fingers and you're supposed to put rings in the fingers. I don't know, man. It's crazy. But like, each of these leagues is essentially an endgame system of like 2 full games put together. And Path of Exile 2 on version 0.5 has like 6 or 7 of these, right? So you have the Breach, then you have Ritual, which Ritual now, you're going to be able to get unique items out of the Ritual rewards. But I mean, you already were before, but I think it's more frequent now. But even better, Ritual is going to allow you to do crazy stuff like fight 6 bosses at the same time. That seems reasonable. I don't know, man. It seems like it'll be fun. But yeah, so there's that. And then as if that wasn't enough, they're like, but you know, we're giving you all these quests, all of these things for you to do in the end game, but we also want to give you challenges. So you also get challenges, which is like do certain thing a certain number of times. I wasn't really paying too much attention because that just sounded like back into Diablo season thing, the season journey or whatever. I usually don't care too much about those. I care about doing the things that are important to me. But the challenges will also reward you with, I think, cosmetic gear. It was like some armor that you can get and whatnot. So yeah, there's all of that. And in the path for adding additional quality of life, there's now going to be hints during the campaign as to which direction of the map you have to go to in order to get to the next zone for people that are like trying to speed run through the campaign. So they're trying to hurry you along through the campaign. If you're making like a second or third character, they're not giving you the option to outright skip the campaign, but they're making it so that you don't have to explore the corners of the map. It's like, oh, I found the exit, here it is. They'll like give you hints telling you, oh, this is where you go to this map, this is where you go to that map. So sometimes you talk to an NPC, the NPC points you in direction. Sometimes it's something a little bit more subtle, like a flock of ravens after you do the ritual thing and one of the things in the first act, then it will guide you to where you go to that whole ritual area where you fight the King of the Mists and all that good stuff. So there's a bunch of that stuff in there. And then once again, for those of you that do play the game by following build guides, they're going to allow you to just import somebody else's build guide directly into the game, and that will show you the path that you have to do through all of the passive tree nodes and all of that good stuff. So, and also the ascendancy nodes and et cetera, et cetera. And it even references, like, if that thing has gear, will tell you which items you're supposed to place in each slot and all of that good stuff. So for those of you that enjoy that, which, by the way, I know that there's a lot of you, I'm happy for you. I'm still going to be doing things, muddling my way through and messing up my builds and doing it that way because I find it more fun. But, you know, it is what it is. Enjoy the game the way that you enjoy it, and it's cool that they're adding this option for the people that are going to be using it. I think it's really nice, particularly because I know that there's a lot of content creators that make a build and then they have to explain to people, okay, so use this item, use this thing, and people are following along the video and then they're like maybe taking notes or whatever, or maybe they get to a point it's like, oh, I have to rewatch that video. Now they can just import a file, boom, done. It's always there in the game for them, so that's cool. They're also adding some more stuff to trading quality of life. I paid no attention to this. Like I said, I usually play solo self-found, so it doesn't really really affect me all that much. But you're going to be able to more easily verify the prices of items. You can even like do stuff in game, not through an external website. You can even do stuff like toggle certain affixes or suffixes from the item to figure out what is the effect that those particular suffixes have on the price, so that you can figure out, oh, if it has these things but it doesn't have this one, maybe I can make do with this item. And I just think that it's a lot of really cool quality of life stuff, and it's just a metric ton of content because there's just so much here that it is absolutely insane. And personally, I can't wait to jump in, but let me know how you guys feel about all of this stuff getting added into the game. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. And this is a noob's take on the upcoming League mechanic, the Return of the Ancients, and the Runes of Alder. I'll see you guys later. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.